The blizzard howled outside like a beast, trying to claw its way in. Marcus Foster huddled closer to his fireplace, the dancing flames providing the only light in his remote cabin. 3 months into his self-imposed exile to finish his novel, and the isolation was beginning to feel less like a writing retreat and more like punishment. Marcus checked his watch. 11:47 p.m. Another night of minimal progress. The blank page on his laptop mocked him, cursor blinking rhythmically like a metronome counting the seconds of his failure. He closed the device with a sigh and moved to pour another finger of whiskey. The cabin creaked and moaned under the assault of the winter storm. Located 20 miles from the nearest town in northern Montana, it had seemed perfect when his agent suggested it. No distractions, just you and your imagination, Olivia had said. She'd neglected to mention the soul-crushing loneliness. A particularly violent gust rattled the windows. And Marcus startled when he thought he heard something else a knock. Impossible. Nobody would be out in this weather, and nobody knew where he was except Olivia. Then it came again, unmistakable this time. 3 firm knocks. Marcus approached the door cautiously. "Who's there?" He called out, no response except the wind's mournful wail. Logic told him to ignore it, but something deeper curiosity, perhaps. The desperate need for human contact made him unlock and open the door. The blast of cold air hit him first, followed by the sight of a woman standing on his porch. She was wrapped in a heavy coat dusted with snow, her dark hair whipping wildly around her face. "Thank God," she breathed, her voice barely audible over the storm. "I thought I might die. Out here." Before Marcus could respond, she pushed past him into the cabin. The abruptness left him momentarily speechless as he closed the door against the howling wind. "Who are you?" he finally managed. "How did you find this place?" The woman was already removing her coat, revealing a slender frame dressed in practical hiking clothes. "Name's Thea," she said, moving toward the fire without invitation. "My car slid off the road about a mile back. Saw your lights. Lucky for me." Something about her explanation didn't ring true, but Marcus couldn't place what. The cabin was hidden behind trees, barely visible from the main road, even in daylight. "There's no cell service here," he offered, watching her warm her hands by. "The fire? But I can try to help in the morning when the storm passes." Thea turned to face him fully for the first time, and Marcus felt an involuntary step backward. Her eyes were striking amber, almost golden in the firelight, with an intensity that seemed to look through rather than at him. "That would be great." She smiled, though it didn't reach those unsettling eyes. "Got any food? I'm starving." The next hour passed in awkward small talk as Marcus heated canned soup and offered crackers, the best he could manage from his dwindling supplies. Thea ate ravenously, but revealed little about herself despite his questions. Each inquiry was deflected with practiced ease. "Where exactly were you heading in a blizzard?" "Just passing through. You're not from around here, are you?" "Not exactly." Eventually exhaustion began to claim him. "You can take the couch," Marcus said, gathering spare blankets from a chest. "It's not comfortable, but it's better than freezing outside." Thea accepted the blankets with a nod, but made no move to settle on the couch. Instead, she studied the cabin's interior with calculating eyes. "Get some rest," Marcus said, retreating toward his bedroom. "I'll figure out your car situation in the morning." He closed his bedroom door, not quite trusting his unexpected guest. After a moment's consideration, he dragged a chair under the doorknob, not enough to keep someone determined out, but enough to wake him if she tried. Sleep came fitfully, dreams plagued by golden eyes and howling winds. Marcus wasn't sure how long he'd been asleep when he jerked awake, heart pounding. Something had changed in the room. The chair was still in place, the door undisturbed, yet he sensed a presence. Slowly, he turned his head toward the other side of the bed. Thea lay there, eyes open and watching him. She hadn't bothered with the blankets, still fully dressed atop the covers. The moonlight filtering through the window cast her face in silver shadow. "What the hell?" Marcus gasped, scrambling. "Upright, how did you?" Thea interrupted, her voice oddly calm. "They're coming." "Who's coming? How did you get in here?" Thea's eyes never left his face as she shifted closer. You're in danger, Marcus Foster. More than you know. The sound of his full name from this stranger's lips sent ice through his veins. She hadn't just stumbled upon his cabin by accident. You're mine now, she whispered, her hand reaching for his arm. I protect what's mine. Marcus recoiled from Thea's touch, nearly falling off the bed in his haste to put distance between them. Who are you really? Demanded, grabbing the lamp from his nightstand, a pitiful weapon, but better than nothing. How do you know my name, eh? Thea remained unnervingly calm. I told you. My name is Thea, and I'm here because you're in danger. She glanced toward the window, a flicker of concern crossing her face. They've found you sooner than I expected. Who has found me? What are you talking about? Marcus backed toward the door, wondering if he could reach his car keys before this clearly unstable woman caught up to him. Look outside, Thea said simply. Despite his better judgment, Marcus peered through the frost-hedged window. At first, he saw nothing but swirling snow in the moonlight. Then he noticed movements at the tree-lined dark, flowing shapes that seemed to absorb the light around them. They weren't quite human, more like rippling shadows with vaguely humanoid forms. What the hell are those? He whispered, fear replacing anger. Voidwalkers, Thea answered, suddenly beside him. They feed on creative energy, and you're practically a beacon to them. Your writing, your imagination, it draws them like moths to flame. Marcus shook his head in disbelief. This is insane. You're insane, maybe, Thea acknowledged. But those things outside are real, and they will drain every creative thought from your mind if they get to you. They'll leave you an empty shell. As if to punctuate her words, a low, vibrating hum began to fill the cabin, making Marcus's teeth ache and his vision blur. The window frosted over completely in seconds, ice patterns spreading like living tendrils. They're testing the barriers, Thea murmured. She pulled something from around her neck, a small pendant that glowed with soft blue light. I've been watching you for weeks, Marcus. I knew they'd come eventually, watching me. The revelation should have angered him, but fear was quickly taking precedence. The shadows outside were pressing closer to the cabin, darkness pooling beneath the door. I'm a guardian, Thea explained, her pendant growing brighter. I protect people like you from things like them, people with the spark. The temperature in the cabin plummeted. Marcus could see his breath clouding before him. This can't be happening. What is happening? Thea countered firmly. And you have two choices. Trust me and live, or don't and become their next meal. A shadow slithered beneath the bedroom door, pooling like oil on the wooden floor. It reared up, forming a shapeless mass that emanated cold and despair. Thea moved faster than should have been possible, placing herself between Marcus and the entity. Her pendant flared with blinding light as she spoke words in a language Marcus didn't recognize. The shadow creature recoiled with a sound like tearing fabric. Stay behind me, Thea ordered, pressing something cold and metallic into Marcus's palm, a small dagger with strange symbols etched into the blade. Iron and silver. It won't kill them, but it will hurt them enough to buy us time. The next hours passed in a terrifying blur. Shadow creatures continued their assault on the cabin, while Thea reinforced entrances with lines of salt and symbols, drawn in what looked disturbingly like blood. Marcus followed her instructions in a daze, his worldview crumbling with every passing minute. By dawn, the attacks had ceased. Exhausted, they sat at the kitchen table, steam rising from mugs of strong coffee. Why me? Marcus finally asked, voice hoarse. Your writing reaches people on a deeper level than you realize, Thea explained. It resonates with the collective unconscious. That kind of ability is rare and powerful and dangerous in the wrong hands, or mouths, in their case. So I'm supposed to just accept that monsters are after me because I write fiction? The absurdity of it almost made him laugh. Accept it. Don't accept it doesn't change reality, Thea shrugged. But I'm not leaving you unprotected. Marcus studied her across the table. In the morning light, she looked more human, more vulnerable. Dark circles under her golden eyes revealed her exhaustion. How long have you been doing this? Protecting. People longer than you'd believe, she answered cryptically. Their conversation was interrupted by the sound of breaking glass. Shadow larger than the others crashed through the kitchen window, engulfing Thea before she could react. She screamed not in fear but in rage as the darkness wrapped around her. Marcus acted on instinct, grabbing the silver dagger and plunging it into the center of the shadow. The creature released Thea with a shriek that hurt Marcus's ears, dissolving into wisps of black smoke. Thea lay on the floor gasping, her skin pale and lips tinged with blue. "They're getting stronger," she wheezed. "We need to move. This place isn't safe anymore." Marcus helped her to her feet, supporting her. Wait, 24 hours ago, his biggest concern had been writer's block. Now he was facing monsters from beyond reality, with a mysterious guardian who had literally climbed into his bed and claimed him. "Where do we go?" he asked. Thea's amber eyes met his determination, replacing pain. "Somewhere they can't follow. Somewhere I can teach you to protect yourself." As Marcus packed his essential belongings, including his manuscript, he realized his peaceful isolation was over. Whether he wanted it or not, Thea had become his protector and his life would never be the same. The journey to Thea's safe place took them deep into the wilderness. Marcus's ancient jeep groaned in protest as they navigated unmarked forest roads that seemed to disappear and reappear between blinks. "Turn left," Thea instructed. "There is." "No left," Marcus protested. "That's just trees." Thea gave him an exasperated look. "Trust me." Gritting his teeth, Marcus turned toward the solid wall of pines only to find a narrow path opening before them. He slammed on the brakes, hands trembling on the steering wheel. "How did you perception filter?" Thea explained, her voice matter of fact, despite the impossibility of what had just happened. "Most people see what they expect to see. The path was always there." An hour later, they arrived at a small cabin nestled in a clearing. Unlike Marcus's rental, this place felt anchored to the landscape, as if it had grown from the earth itself. Symbols similar to those Thea had drawn at his cabin were carved into the wooden doorframe. Inside was unexpected luxury modern appliances, comfortable furniture, and walls lined with books. One entire section was dedicated to leather-bound journals. "My predecessor's records," Thea explained, following his gaze. "Every guardian keeps a chronicle of their charges and encounters." "How many of you are there?" Marcus asked, running his fingers along the spines of the journals. "Not enough," Thea sighed. "Fewer each generation. The world is losing belief in things it can't explain, and belief is power." Marcus watched as she moved around the cabin, lighting candles and activating symbols that glowed briefly before fading. Her movements were practiced, efficient. "You said you've been watching me for weeks," he said. "Why didn't you approach me sooner?" Thea paused, considering her answer. "Guardians don't interfere unless absolutely necessary. Your creative energy was strong but contained. Then you started working on your new book." She trailed off, giving him a significant look. Marcus felt a chill. "What about my book?" "You're tapping into something ancient, Marcus. Those dreams you've been having, the ones you're writing about, they're not just dreams. They're glimpses of the veil between worlds." The revelation struck like a physical blow. His novel in progress featured a world where dreams were doorways to other realities. He'd been having incredibly vivid dreams since starting the project, dreams that felt more like memories. "That's impossible," he whispered. "Is it more impossible than what you saw last night?" Thea challenged. She approached him, hesitating, before gently touching his forehead. "It runs in bloodlines, usually dormant until something awakens it. Your writing, your creativity, it's not just talent, it's power." Marcus backed away from her touch. "If what you're saying is true, then what am I?" "Human," Thea assured him. "Just ... more aware than most. Some call it the spark." That night, after a dinner of surprisingly good stew, Thea began Marcus's education. She taught him about the veiled barrier between the mundane world and what she called the shadow realms. She explained how creative energy could thin that barrier, allowing things to slip through. "Your book is creating a door," she said, flipping through his manuscript. "Every word you write makes it more real." "And I'll stop writing," Marcus offered. Desperately, Thea shook her head. "Too late for that. The door is already forming, and we need to make sure you can control what comes through it." She handed him a small journal with blank pages. "Record your dreams, every detail. It's important." That night, Marcus dreamed of golden eyes in shadowy forests. He dreamed of running alongside Thea, her hand in his, pursued by creatures made of darkness and whispers. When he awoke gasping for breath, she was there, sitting at the edge of his bed. "You were calling my name," she explained, her expression unreadable. "I saw you in my dream," he admitted. "We were running from something. Worse than those shadow things." Thea's face paled. "Show me." Marcus described the dream in detail, watching as Thea's composure cracked for the first time. "The Hollow King," she whispered. "If he's aware of you, we have less time than I thought." "Who is the Hollow King?" Thea's golden eyes met his. "That should never have existed. A human who gave up his humanity to rule the Shadow Realms. If he's in your dreams, it means he wants what you have." "Which is what exactly?" "The ability to create realities through words." Thea's voice was somber. "Marcus, you're not just seeing through the veil, you're rewriting it." In that moment, looking into her inhuman eyes, Marcus realized their relationship had fundamentally changed. She had climbed into his bed, claiming he was hers to protect. Now, he was beginning to understand why that protection was necessary and what it might cost them both. Days blended into weeks at Thea's cabin. Marcus's training progressed from basic protection symbols to more complex workings of what she reluctantly called magic. "It's not magic in the way you understand it," Thea corrected him repeatedly. "It's intention shaped by will, focused through symbols that have power because generations have believed in them." Whatever she called it, Marcus couldn't deny the results. He could now sense the Voidwalkers before they appeared. He could create barriers that repelled them. Most surprisingly, he could channel his creative energy into physical manifestations, light, heat, even small illusions. "You're learning faster than any charge I've had," Thea admitted one evening as they sat before the fireplace. Journal lay open between them, filled with Marcus's increasingly vivid dream records. "I'm a good student," he replied with a half-smile. Thea's expression remained serious. "Too good, perhaps. The faster you develop, the more attention you draw." The warning proved prophetic. That night, as snow fell silently outside, the attack came. Marcus woke to the sound of Thea's voice, urgent and tight with fear. "Get up now." Was on his feet instantly, grabbing the iron-silver dagger he now kept beneath his pillow. The air in the cabin felt wrong, heavy and distorted, like being underwater. "What is it?" he whispered. "Not Voidwalkers," Thea replied, her golden eyes glowing in the darkness. Something worse. The Hollow King's emissaries. The temperature plummeted. Ice crystals formed on the windows, spreading in fractal patterns. The fireplace, which had been burning low, extinguished completely, plunging the cabin into darkness. "Remember, you're training," Thea said, pressing her back to his. "Focus your intention through the symbols." Marcus concentrated, drawing the protection sigil in his mind, feeling energy gather in his fingertips. When the first creature burst through the wall, a tall, emaciated figure with skin like cracked porcelain and empty eye sockets, he was ready. "Brenna's shield," he shouted, naming the symbol as Thea had taught him. Light erupted from his outstretched hands, forming a barrier between them and the creature. The emissary recoiled, its lipless mouth opening in a silent scream. But more were coming, materializing through walls and floor as if physical barriers meant nothing. Thea moved like a dancer, her pendant flaring with each precisely executed defense. "They're trying to separate us," she called out. "Don't let them." Marcus fought to maintain position, but the creatures were hurting them apart. One grabbed his arm with fingers like ice, sending pain shooting up to his shoulder. He slashed with his dagger, severing the creature's hand, which shattered like glass against the floor. In that moment of distraction, 3 emissaries surrounded Thea. She fought fiercely, but even her guardian abilities were overwhelmed by their numbers. One drove what looked like a shard of black crystal into her side. Thea's scream cut through Marcus like a blade. Something inside him snapped, a barrier breaking. Power surged through him, different from the controlled energy of his training. This was raw, primal, fueled by rage and fear. Words poured from his mouth, words he'd never learned, but somehow knew The cabin itself seemed to respond, wood groaning and creaking as reality bent around him. The emissaries froze, their porcelain bodies cracking under the pressure of Marcus's unleashed power, with a sound like a thunderclap. The creatures exploded into fragments of shadow and ice. The sudden silence was deafening. Marcus rushed to Thea, who lay crumpled on the floor, blood seeping from around the black crystal still embedded in her side. Thea, he cradled her head, panic rising. Tell me what to do. Her golden eyes fluttered. Open, pain evident in every line of her face. The crystal, she gasped. It's poisoning me. You have to remove it. How won't that make the bleeding worse? Thea gripped his arm with surprising strength. My journal, page marked with red ribbon, sealing ritual. Marcus found the journal with trembling hands, flipping to the marked page. The ritual was complex, requiring ingredients scattered throughout the cabin. He worked frantically, following the instructions while checking on Thea every few seconds. Her breathing grew more labored, her skin taking on an ashen hue.
Oh.
The black crystal was spreading tendrils beneath her skin like ink through water. When the ritual components were prepared, Marcus knelt beside her. I don't know if I can do this, he admitted. Thea's eyes locked with his. You can, you must. I'm yours to protect now, just as you were mine. The reversal of her words from that first night steadied him. With careful precision, Marcus drew the required symbols around the crystal in a mixture of salt, herbs, and his own blood. Recited the words from the journal, feeling power building with each syllable. When he grasped the crystal to pull it out, pain seared through his hand, but he didn't let go. As the crystal came free, he pressed the prepared poultice to Thea's wound. Completing the ritual with a final word of power, Thea's back arched as golden light spread from the poultice, counteracting the black tendrils. When the light faded, the wound was sealed, though an intricate scar remained. Marcus collapsed beside her, drained completely. Did it work? His hand found his, squeezing weakly. It worked. You saved me. What was that power? Marcus asked. I've never felt anything like it. Thea's expression was grave despite her exhaustion. The power of a true wordsmith. Rarer than guardians, more dangerous. That why the Hollow King wants me? Yes, Thea whispered, and why you must now make a choice. Dawn broke over the mountains, pale light filtering through the damaged cabin. Thea sat wrapped in blankets by the rekindled fire, her face still drawn with pain, but her eyes alert. Marcus brought her tea brewed with herbs from her stores. Thank you, she said, accepting the cup with both hands. For the tea and for saving my life. Marcus sat across from her. You've saved mine multiple times. Consider it partial repayment. A comfortable silence settled between them, so different from the awkward tension of their first meeting. In the weeks of training, something had changed. Trust had developed, and with it, a connection neither had anticipated. You said I have to make a choice, Marcus finally said. What choice? Thea sipped her tea before answering. The Hollow King won't stop. Last night was just the beginning. He wants your power, and he'll send worse than emissaries next time. So what are my options? 3 paths, Thea replied. First, you could run. I know ways to hide you, places even the Hollow King would struggle to find. But it would mean leaving everything behind your writing, your old life, and eventually he would find you. Marcus shook his head. I'm not running. Small smile touched Thea's lips. I didn't think you would. The second path is to seal your power completely. There's a ritual that would sever your connection to the veil. You'd lose the sight, the abilities you've gained. You'd be normal again. The idea was tempting to return to his ordinary life, where shadows were just shadows and dreams were just dreams. But something in him rebelled at the thought. What's the third option? He asked, though he suspected. He already knew. You embrace what you are, Thea said simply. A wordsmith. Learn to control your power fully, to create and unmake as needed. You stand against the Hollow King not as prey, but as equal. And the catch? Thea's golden eyes held his. There's always a price for power. The more you use it, the more it changes you. Every wordsmith throughout history has eventually lost themselves to their own creations. Marcus considered his manuscript the book that had started everything. Is that what happened to the Hollow King? He was a wordsmith who went too far. Yes, Thea confirmed. Once, he was human, a writer like you. His name was Edmund Blackwood. He created a world so compelling that he preferred it to reality. Eventually, the boundary between creator and creation dissolved.
The name sent a
shock through Marcus. Edmund Blackwood was a 19th century author whose work had inspired Marcus's own writing style. The coincidence was too specific to ignore. You knew, he accused softly. You knew there was a connection between us. Thea nodded. Wordsmith abilities often follow bloodlines, even distant ones. I suspected, but wasn't certain until I saw you write. Marcus stood, pacing the small room. So my choices are run forever. Give up who I am or risk becoming the next monster. I never said they were good choices, Thea replied, but they are the only ones. Before Marcus could respond, the cabin shuddered. Outside, the sky darkened unnaturally, clouds swirling into a vortex directly above them. He's coming, Thea said, struggling to her feet. The Hollow King himself. Marcus felt it too, a pressure in his mind, like someone trying to force their way in. The manuscript on the table began to glow, pages turning on their own. Marcus, a voice whispered from everywhere and nowhere. Blood of my blood, word of my word. Open the door. Thea gripped Marcus's arm. Your choice. Now. In that moment of pressure, with reality bending around him and darkness pressing in, Marcus found clarity. He'd spent his life creating worlds with words, worlds where ordinary people found extraordinary courage. Perhaps it was time to live up to his own creations. I choose to fight, he said firmly, but on my terms, not his. Marcus grabbed his manuscript, flipping to the last page he'd written before fleeing his cabin. With absolute certainty, he knew what to do. The door swings both ways, he wrote, his handwriting glowing golden on the page. What can come through can also be sent back. The pressure intensified, the voice of the Hollow King rising to a roar. The cabin walls bulged inward as if under enormous weight. Thea stood beside Marcus, her pendant blazing. Whatever you're doing, do it fast. Marcus continued writing, each word burning with intention. The creator sets the rules of his creation. Edmund Blackwood lost himself to his world, but I claim mastery over mine. The manuscript began to burn it with ordinary fire, but with golden flames that consumed without destroying. The air split open, revealing a tear in reality through which Marcus glimpsed a twisted landscape and a figure of shadow and bone. The Hollow King reached through the tear, fingers elongated and sharp as knives. You cannot resist me, he hissed. Your power is mine to claim. Marcus stood his ground, continuing to write even as reality fractured around him. No, he declared, both speaking and writing the words simultaneously, my power is mine to direct. And I direct it to seal the breach you've created. With Thea's strength supporting him, Marcus channeled every ounce of his newly awakened ability into the manuscript. The golden flames leaped from the page to the tear in reality, burning around its edges, shrinking it. The Hollow King's scream of rage echoed across both worlds as the portal closed, severing his reaching hand. The severed appendage fell to the floor, dissolving into ink that seeped into the wooden boards. When it was over, Marcus collapsed, exhausted beyond measure. Thea caught him, easing him to the floor. Is it done? He asked weakly. For now, she answered. You've won yourself time, but not victory. Not yet. Marcus nodded, understanding the journey ahead. Then we better get started. I have a book to finish. Thea's hand found his, her golden eyes meeting his with newfound respect. Yes, we do. Outside, the storm had passed. Sunlight broke through. The clouds, illuminating the cabin, and its two occupants, a guardian and a wordsmith. Bound by circumstances neither had expected but both now embraced. When Thea had first climbed into his bed and whispered, "You're mine now," Marcus had thought it a threat. Now he understood it had been a promise of protection, of purpose, of a shared destiny. And as he looked at her, he knew he wouldn't have it any other way.